What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, Anderson, and welcome to Project CLK55K. We got some more updates planned in this video, a very crucial one, which is the fuel pump, and I wanted to make it into its own video just because it doesn't really get talked about that much on YouTube, and overall with Mercedes, there's not a lot of documentation with swaps like M113K stuff going into the 55s or elsewhere, and what to do with your fuel assemblies. So thus far, we upgraded our fuel filter to the M113K one, which has a little bit higher bar pressure. Here's the old one actually. So that is the old number, 002-477-3001. The new filter you want to use is 5701. That is if you have an early model car, I think like below 2004. This car is an 03. They still use the external filters right behind the passenger side tire kind of area. So that is a easy swap in this case. If you have the internal filter setup that is really on most of the cars, most AMGs especially, once they got to that 2004-2005 range, you're going to have a internal filter in this. This is actually one that I took apart. That is an E55 fuel sender, so that's another option. It has a 5-bar pressure regulator built into it, but luckily in my case, it's kind of made it a little bit simpler just because I have that external filter. So if that doesn't work or doesn't hold the pressure with the upgraded fuel pump that we want, then I can look at installing a fuel pressure regulator, like a manual adjustable one, that I can put in place of that filter. But we were getting around 62, 63 PSI at idle with that new regulator in, but as soon as I gave the car some revs after putting that in, the fuel pump sounds like it is on its last legs because it's probably never had to flow that much. Nobody's ever really been able to accurately say what the 55 AMG NA cars fuel pumps flow at, like what liter per hour do they actually work at. Some people have said up to 380, but nobody really knows for sure. And in this case, I think with that happening right after I just gave it a few throttle blips, it's just proof that that pump cannot keep up with this car if you want to run it at a little bit bumped pressure like you should. From factory, a lot of the M113Ks are at 55 PSI, but ideally you want them in the mid 60s range, from anywhere from like 62 to 72 really is kind of your cutoff, but that middle spot in the mid 60s is kind of your sweet zone. So we're gonna try to get it there. I have a few different options that we'll see what looks like the best to do once we get in there and see what we got. But I have this kind of Walbro style fuel pump from Osias. They're kind of a well-known aftermarket brand that offer lifetime warranty on their pumps. So that's one option. It's a 525 liter per hour pump, which obviously will be regulated by the 5-bar pressure in the filter, but still it'll flow enough. So better to have a little bit more than not too or not enough. We also have the E55 pumps, which could come into play if we wanted to keep it factory. I have 2 sets of these actually, so a little bit newer ones here and the older style here, a little bit different connectors on them, and just gives us another option in case we do need or want to go with the factory setup. I will see what is in there now. We're going to pull everything apart. I already have the seats out. They're actually in the trunk right now. That's why all this is up here. And yeah, we'll just move our seats and get access to there, and I'll check back with you guys. All right, you guys, this thing is opened up. Basically, what we're gonna do after you get your top plates off here, which is just a bunch of little 8mm bolts. There's my plates. This one wasn't held on by Mini, so it's pretty easy to get off. But anyways, this little locking collar, you're gonna use like a flathead, some type of dull flathead, and just a hammer, knock this loose, twist it off, and then we'll be able to get to our fuel assemblies. Try to work in a well-ventilated area. That's why I moved the C55 out of the garage, so I can keep the garage open. Got this whole side open. I got the window open on that side. This window doesn't roll down as of now, so otherwise I would have it down. Yeah, we will see what lies beneath. Alright guys, don't be mad at me, but I just got into a haste and got in the zone and forgot to pick up the camera. So that is out of there, and in all honesty, it's probably easier for me to explain what the heck to do out of the car because it was kind of a pain. Fuel pump assembly is here. So this is how it sits in the car from the view you look at it. There is a connector that sits on this side. You use a little screwdriver, pry that open, pop it off. This connector is for the auxiliary pump. Squeeze clip, pull it up and off. The auxiliary pump connects on here with a little arm. Pop that off and then rotate it counterclockwise, and that will allow this to come up by itself. You also need to remove the line here. There's an Oetiker clamp. And then I basically just plied it off because I'm probably not going to be reusing that little section anyways. And then there is also a line at the bottom here which releases with that little pull tab. So now that we have it out, we're going to have to be examining and exploring of how exactly we can situate our new pump in here. I don't think I'm going to worry about the auxiliary pump at all because from talking to other guys that have done it, they said they just left the auxiliary pump alone, so that is likely what I will do. But that is what it looks like down in there. It's basically just the auxiliary pump. That's the line that connects to the bottom there, and then that other line is what connected to the pump. So we got some things to figure out. The pump that I have is a vertical feed. The one right now is a 90 feed like these pumps. So I could use one of the E55 pumps, but we'll see. Once I pop this thing open, it's basically just 3 little tabs and then this will lift off. So let me try it. Alright you guys, next day I'm digging back into this thing. Let's pop this top off and see what we get. Alright, so here we are as soon as disconnecting those tabs. Also took off the little terminals. This is where we are. Filter definitely got some crud in it, but see what we can do here. Alright you guys, so that little top hat separates from this piece. There's just 3 little push tabs that allow this little collar to fall off. And then it also has this little rubber isolator as well. And it looks like this lower collar that keeps it in place. So I'm going to try to get all this stuff off here. The good news is a lot of these assemblies on the newer ones, you can't get the fuel pumps out basically without breaking them. Like even the E55 fuel pump setups, you have to basically break them to get them out. This one is cool. It actually lets you take everything apart. So let's see what we can do and then see how we can fit our other assembly in there if possible. Alright guys, well, you can tell it's dark out now. Spent a lot of time, I mean, I wasn't working on this all day at all, but earlier I spent a lot of time trying to figure out what the heck to do with the fuel delivery situation. So I took this off of the stock inlet. I think it's going to have enough of a bend to be able to get over to our little clip-in tube. I wanted to reuse that, so basically just heated up these fittings and hopefully I'm going to be able to make it work. For our connector, I'm just going to use the one they supplied and spliced in the little butt connectors, make sure they're very solid. I did solder one up using the heat shrink solder, but I just wasn't confident in that sheathing staying safe in the fuel, and you know, if the 2 sheathings dissolved then these touch, bad idea. So these are nylon. Nylon doesn't really dissolve in fuel, so that's why these are supplied, and these will be safe. So not the prettiest, not the best, but they work, and just like I said, made sure they're very solid when you crimp them down. What else? The next part of the process is going to be tricky. Is I need to figure out how exactly to set this in here, and more importantly, I mean, I can set it in here fine, but more importantly, how do I secure it so it's not just flopping around? the factory pieces that I did pull out, it's a complete mess here, sorry guys, but factory pieces that I did pull out, like on the E55 pumps, have these little things on top, which I thought about trying to make work or reuse in some shape or form, but otherwise I may just be using some like steel wire and maybe drilling a few small holes, wrapping it around the pump, and trying to anchor it in there as best as I can. It's definitely going to sit lower than the other one did, so I'll just have to try to replicate what I can and do what I can. So check back with you guys in a bit once I get a little further ahead. Alright guys, this is definitely one of those if it works scenarios. Couldn't really come up with anything besides zip ties to keep this thing secure. It has no like anchor on the body of it, so I just kind of got creative, had some wraparounds, and then made some anchors with the other zip ties and went through the existing holes on this top hat. So gives it a little bit of flexibility, but stays nice and secure. I did try to retain that little rubber isolator just to help keep it in place a little bit, and I think it'll be alright guys. So I'm gonna get this set in here and see how it goes. Alright guys, well, if I do say so myself, turned out fairly clean, to be honest. Like I said, a little bit of wiggle room all ways, but nothing enough to upset anything, but just enough to keep it happy in there. And it's not going to be sloshing around by any means too much anyway. So that is that. I can't believe, I think this might work, you guys. I'm going to try to get some Oetiker clamps on both of these sides just to be safe. I mean, they're very solid. A heat shrunk onto there, but I'll get some Oetiker clamps onto those and try to get this thing back in here, guys. Fingers crossed. Alright, you guys, next day, and we are back at it. Hopefully the time that we are finishing this job up right now. So, we left off. You guys saw my contraption here. Got everything tucked in. Now we just got to confirm that we can get things to fit. I was also going back and forth if I even need to try to put the Oetiker clamps onto this thing. So, let me see if I got some that will fit. I think this one might be the correct size, but it's a little bit warped. We'll see. Oh, I can grab these ones. So let me try. Otherwise, we'll just throw it in as is. Alright guys, I think I'm going to pass on the Oetiker clamps, to be honest. They pretty much just like spin on these spots anyways. So I'm not too worried about, you know, the heat shrunk stuff coming off of here. Like, yeah, I just don't see it happening. So we're going to go ahead and try to throw this in now. Key things when I'm placing this back in is got to get that line plugged in back there. Oh, you know what I just thought about? That spot where I put that zip tie is actually a spot that is used for that plug. Don't know if I'll be able to make that work. I might have to move that. I just realized that. Alright guys, got that fixed. Just didn't want to cause any problems with that other hose that attaches in here. So still pretty much the exact same, just use one other different spot. So nice and easy. You didn't have to drill any holes, no breaking of anything, just zip ties. So that'll do. Let's go ahead and try to drop this in here and see how it goes. Alright guys, and again, this is such a tight squeeze. I don't really know what I'll be able to show you guys once I get in here, but the basic principles are I'm going to have to swivel this on to the bracket down there, metal bracket for the auxiliary pump, plug in our little catch line right there for the main feed, and then plug in that bottom line for down here. So I'll try to show you guys after I'm done. Alright guys, we're all situated, all factory plugs back in, and now we'll just see if the top hat will slide in here okay. We got some adjustability, so I think should be okay. Let me try it out. Alright you guys, I got that in there all situated. Put a little dielectric grease on that seal just to help it slide down in there. If that seal gets like a bunch of fuel on it or any fuel, just replace it. Mine luckily was in good shape and it stayed pretty dry on the way out, and I kept it out of the way of fuel while I was working on everything. But if it looks bad to you or if it's dry cracked or anything like that, just replace it. But yeah, luckily mine was in okay shape, so I just put a little dielectric grease, popped it in there. Definitely a firm fit, but before I put the locking collar on, because that is a cumbersome and tedious job, a lot of spins to get it all the way on there, I'm gonna go ahead and test this thing out. So let's hook our battery back up, and we'll go ahead and give it a test fire, or at least prime it and see what happens, do all that stuff, and then we can go from there. All right, battery on, and let's go give it a prime, see what happens. All right, I'll just do this from outside the car, see if what we hear. All right, hear fuel pump, that's great. Prime it a few times. Hear the fuel pump again, good. All right, we're gonna do this about 5 times, then we'll go check the pressure at the rail. Okay, let's go check. Our ultra gauge is getting confused. All right, yeah, definitely still low on the rail. We're gonna have to do this a bunch of times, so let me check back in a sec. All right, guys, we're at our mark now of about 55 PSI. So we should be good to start it. And we'll just keep an eye on things back there, obviously, but let's go ahead and start it up. Try it again. About 62. All right. Yeah, for whatever reason, on those cold starts, it's been a little bit weird. It's like real jumpy, and then it does kind of like a backfire, and then comes back to life. So it could just be from it sitting around. It really does need to get driven, but it is definitely a weird behavior that's been happening. But as far as fueling goes, I think we're okay. Gas gauge is still in the right spot. Pressure gauge is right at about 61, 62. Once it gets a little warmed up, I'll give it a few throttle blips and make sure all is good. Alright, let's give it a few blips, nothing crazy. It's not warm, but alright, no weird noises from the pump. That's what I was hearing for, so I think we're good on that front. PSI is still the exact same, so that's good. I'm gonna go ahead and put the lock ring on there, and then probably gonna move this thing out, give it a bath. But alright guys, I'm gonna go ahead and cut it off. I'll try to restart it, just make sure. check engine light. That's been happening. I'll have to see what it says this time. There's the oil level sensor, and then the cam sensor has also been being a little weird, so I'll have to check what that says right now. But for the most part, I think that is gonna do it. So I will leave it there, guys. I was actually in the middle of making another video where I need to move the car around a little bit more when I started to notice the fuel pumps going out and screaming at me. So this became the video I needed to finish in order to finish up the other one. So you'll probably see them both in the same week. But yeah, fuel pressure looks good. We're obviously gonna have to do some more testing. I mean, this is just idling, so that's just the first part of it. But later down the line, I'll have the Z-Tronics hooked up. We can see AFRs, and I'll need to put, like, I don't know, either just have somebody stand out there while I'm flipping the throttle, or put a GoPro or something to watch what fuel pressure does, and just keep an eye on it. So that said, catch you guys on the next one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys are excited about this getting this close. I know I am, and it's a blessing to have this thing in the garage. So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed. I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.